Alright, so November 28th, we had a big fight. Alright, we had a fight that I've been looking forward to just pretty much since it was announced, back in January, early February. Daniel Dubois takes on Joyce. It's on standard BT Sport. Now, lest we forget, right, this fight was set to take place in the end of April, okay, if everything had been normal, right? This would have been at the O2, would have been on BT Sport pay-per-view, right? As it's, changed, as the times have changed, it's been pushed back, but eventually we've set on this date. It's behind closed doors. It's not on pay-per-view. It's on standard BT Sport. We're getting Joyce versus Daniel Dubois. Now, I've spoken before that even prior to everything that's going on now, with people having less money, etc., that I would buy most pay-per-views, but there are some, even if I could afford it, I just say no. Like Usyk Chisora was a good example of that. This one I would have paid for. So, I would have paid for this, right? This is obviously not on pay-per-view, which is brilliant, so I don't have to pay for it. But that's how excited I am for this particular fight. I think it's going to be a great fight. You got two undefeated guys, right? You got Joyce, who he is up there in age. He's 35 years old now, even though he's only been pro 4 years now. He's only been pro 4 years, but he was someone who turned over quite late. Or turned over to the pro game quite late. He started boxing quite late. If you look at Joyce, right, you see how he fights. You really would wonder how he was ever such a successful amateur. I mean, this is an Olympic silver medalist. Many people believe he beat Tony Yoka in the final of Rio 2016, but didn't get the decision. All right, it was a close fight. Don't get me wrong. It was a very, very close competitive fight. Could have gone either way. But this is someone who looks very raw, very novice-y when he throws his shots. Defense is not great. It's not one of Joyce's strongest things in his arsenal, basically, his defense. We've seen him get tagged before. We've seen him come in with his chin high in there. I mean, look at Bermain Stavern when he fought him back at the start of 2019. I mean, Stavern, to say he'd seen better days, I mean, Stevie Wonder has seen better days. No pun intended. Then, that was actually a goal. That was a shot there. Then Bermain Stavern, right? So, but he was still able to land on Joyce early on in that fight. But Joyce has a good chin. I think that's fair to say, right? Joyce has been in there with the better opposition. I mean, he made his pro debut against Ian Lewison. Ian Lewison, he ain't no jokes. Although I don't think he's fought since. It's not a bad guy to make your pro debut against. Before he fought Wallish, he was coming off the back of a win over Brian Jennings. Brian Jennings is a tricky contender, fringe world level now, it's fair to say Brian Jennings is. But still, that is better than anybody on Daniel Dubois' resume. I mean, Dubois, significantly younger. I think he's only about 23. He is the British and Commonwealth champion. That's good. That's good to hear that he's got a British title and a Commonwealth title. But lest we forget, his resume is not exactly stacked. The best name on Dubois' resume, Kevin Johnson and Nathan Gorman. They're his best two wins. You might want to add Kajanu there if you want, but he's getting beaten left, right, and centre these days, so I wouldn't stick that on there. If you look at the quality of his last few opponents, I mean, last year he was active. He fought 5 times. He fought Richard Latte. This is not in chronological order, by the way. He fought Richard Latte. He fought Kajanu. He fought Nathan Gorman. Nathan Gorman was summer last year. That's kind of the height of Daniel Dubois in 2019. Then he fought Ebenezer Tete. Now, Ebenezer Tete, people, that was for a Commonwealth title. It wasn't because they just decided he's sufficient. They wanted a Commonwealth title. But Ebenezer Tete was a poor opponent. Right, very poor. And you thought then, right, he's going to get a run-up before the end of the year. It's not going to be anybody good, but it's going to be someone competent. And we got that Fujimoto guy. There are not many Japanese heavyweights, and there's a reason for that. He was terrible. And then, when they announced that Joyce and Dubois are going to have interim fights, in the meantime, before they meet, we get that Pfeiffer guy. Was it George Pfeiffer or something like that? He was meant to be fighting, who was a decent amateur. Was 7-0, was undefeated. And they pulled him for seemingly no apparent reason, and they put him in there with Ricardo Schneiders, a cruiserweight. So Dubois has been fighting very, very, very poor opposition the last year really. Very poor comparative to Joyce. Joyce has been fighting the better opponents. When I look at these two stylistically, right, I think that Dubois, he's more although it's weird, right? You've Joe Joyce, who he's medalled in the Olympics. He's done all this stuff as an amateur. He's fought the better opponents as a pro, but he looks more raw than Dubois. Dubois looks a lot more polished, right? His technique is a lot better. He's been boxing for years. Although he never had the amateur, credentials that Joe Joyce has, he's been boxing for a while. His technique is very good. Dubois, he is quite slow. Daniel Dubois, it has to be said. He is very heavy. He can come in with his chin up high in the air a little bit too much. He can get tagged a little bit. We saw Richard Latte tag him a couple of times in their fight, and Richard Latte is probably not where near the puncher that Joe Joyce is. People question Joe Joyce's punching power a bit, which I find very silly, because the shots are very slow, they're very crude, they have a lot of power behind them. I mean, look when he knocked out Joe Hanks. It looked as if Joe Joyce has two sandbags on his fists. That's the best way you describe it. They're slow, but when they hit you, you're feeling it, right? So Dubois, we've seen him charge at opponents before. I don't think we're going to see that against Joe Joyce. I think he's going to be very cautious. I think he's going to be boxing behind his jab. I think he's going to be trying to move. Seriously, I think he's going to be trying to move around the ring, because I think he's going to know, right, I can't really engage with this guy, because this guy is physically strong, very physically strong. He's big. Although he might not look great technically, his style has done him good over the years. It's served him well. So he might be able to figure out ways to land on me. Definitely Joe Joyce, in my opinion, will be the hardest puncher Dubois has been in the ring with. Possibly amateur, but certainly pro, right? So he's going to want to be wary about his own defense. This is a 12-rounder, right? This could go rounds. So Dubois is going to want to look at his stamina. Now, when he went 10 rounds against Kevin Johnson, he done it at a decent pace. So didn't seem to have any stamina issues. I know a lot of people were very critical of that performance, but I actually thought it was all right, given the fact that Johnson is very negative and he's really there to survive. I didn't think it was that bad. He showed me decent stamina. So I think that Dubois, I think that he'll be very cagey. I think that he'll probably be trying to box behind the jab and just trying to keep Joe Joyce at range. Joe Joyce, I think, is just going to be normal juggernaut. He's going to charge forward. He's going to try and overpower Dubois. We have seen snippets of Joe Joyce kind of box on the back foot, kind of move and popping a jab out. We saw a bit of that when he was working with David Hay. It looked a bit ungainly. Like, he fought that 7-foot guy, Donnie Palmer, I think the guy's name was, who was just awful. He knocked him out in a round. But whenever he's done it, he's always just looked very off when he's tried to box, and when he goes full-blown juggernaut and he comes charging at you. Like, look when he fought Lenroy Thomas. He came out trying to box like early on in that fight, and he got clipped with a left hand, and it was just like you saw the red mist, and he just charged that Lenroy Thomas and just bludgeoned them. So I reckon that's going to be something like what Joe Joyce is going to do. What Dubois needs to do, and what he does do, is he goes to the body. Right, Dubois is one of very few heavyweights you see actually go to the body. He stopped Ricardo Schneider's with a body shot. Now, Joe Joyce, although his chin is showing up to be very good, we did see him get hurt a couple of times by Brian Jennings, by body shots. Brian Jennings not known as a big puncher, alright? So if Dubois goes down to Joe Joyce's body, and lest we forget, that Brian Jennings fight was close, right? I know the judges had it miles for Joe Joyce. It was a close fight. Go back and watch it. Joe Joyce won it for me, but it was a close fight. So I think Dubois is going to want to go with Joe Joyce's body. As I said, he's going to want to be very mindful of what's coming back at him. Whereas Joe Joyce, he's going to want to actually be he's going to want to be protecting his body, right? He's going to try to be moving from the hip, and I think he is going to be trying to really put it on Daniel Dubois, just to see what kind of Dubois is made of, and just to see how Dubois reacts. Will he capitulate? Because Dubois is a very measured character. We don't see a lot out of him. So if someone really tries to put it on him and, ragdoll him, because that's what Dubois has done several times in his career, is that he's ragdolled opponents, he's overpowered opponents. If we see someone do that to Dubois and have success, how will Dubois react to that? That's my question in this. I'm not going to go on much longer. I've talked about this as much as I feel I need to. I have to give a prediction on this fight. It's a competitive fight. The betting odds in Joe Joyce's favour are worth sticking some money on, because Daniel Dubois is a big favourite. From what I've seen with the betting odds, Dubois is a favourite. There's money to be had on Joe Joyce, right? Having said that, my prediction for this fight is a points victory for Daniel Dubois. I think Daniel Dubois, if he stops Joe Joyce, I think it'll be to the body. I think it'll be accumulative, effective body shots. I can't see him stopping him to the head. I'm sure he has the power to hurt Joe Joyce to the head, but I can't see him doing it. I think Daniel Dubois is going to win this fight on points. I think he's going to box behind the jab. Seriously, I think he's going to box, but I think he's going to be defending. I don't think he's going to come out there charge and trying to get Joyce out of there. I think he's going to want to be cagey. He's going to want to be cautious. And I think, irrespective whether Joyce deserves to get a decision or not, we've seen the way BT Sport, Frank Warren, have been to Joyce ever since he signed. They've not been good at all to him. In terms of how they've treated him in interviews, it's been constantly bigging up Daniel Dubois. Daniel Dubois is the poster boy for BT Sport after Tyson Fury. So they are not going to want Joyce coming in there upsetting the apple cart. No way. So I think even if Joyce deserves a win, he's probably not going to get it unless he drops Dubois a couple of times. That's the only way I can see Joyce getting a win in this fight. I think Dubois will win it fairly though. Although I think there could be controversy, I think Dubois will get the decision and it'll be a fair decision. That's what I'm thinking. That's my prediction for this fight. Gonna leave this video here. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Hope you got something useful. Hope you found something useful out of it and you got something. Leave it here, people. Hope you enjoyed it. Smash the like button, of course, on your way out, or if you haven't already, subscribe, of course, if you guys are new to the channel. As always, people, #GMansRocks in the comments. Love seeing that. As always, peeps, I'll talk to you. Peace.